There's something endlessly fascinating about Gemini. Maybe it's the way their minds move, quick, electric, always alive with questions and ideas. Maybe it's their voice, the way it carries stories, jokes, thoughts, and feelings all in one breath. Or maybe it's their presence, light and bright, yet somehow deeply grounding too. Gemini is often misunderstood, painted as flighty or inconsistent, but if you've ever really known one, if you've listened past the surface, if you've seen what they carry inside, you know there's so much more to them than meets the eye. Gemini is ruled by Mercury, the planet of communication, but they're more than just good talkers. They're soul listeners. They're connectors. They're the spark that starts the conversation, the pause that invites reflection, the laughter that breaks tension, and the silence that lets you know they're really feeling it too. Today, we're going to celebrate the Gemini spirit in full color. We'll explore the 14 reasons why Gemini isn't just admired, they're unforgettable. Because beneath that witty charm and restless curiosity lies a mind that's always reaching for more, a heart that wants to understand, and a soul that's built to explore both the outer world and the inner one. Whether you're a Gemini yourself or someone who has one in your life, this space is for appreciation, not explanation. It's for peeling back the layers and seeing the truth. Because yes, Gemini can be changeable, yes, they are full of duality, but that's what makes them brilliant. It's not about contradiction, it's about range. It's about having the courage to be many things in a world that often asks us to be just one. So wherever you are right now, I invite you to slow down for a few minutes and see Gemini as they truly are, dynamic, soulful, complex, and full of light. Because when we take the time to really look, we find that Gemini is not just the storyteller, but also the story. 1. Brilliant communicators. Geminis have a way with words that feels almost otherworldly. They don't just talk, they connect. Their voices carry emotion, timing, rhythm, and energy that naturally draws people in. Whether they're telling a funny story, giving heartfelt advice, or simply chatting about their day, there's something about how they speak that makes you want to lean in and listen a little longer. It's not just what they say, it's how they say it. They choose words like an artist chooses colors, not for show, but because they feel what fits. Their minds are quick and flexible, allowing them to shift gears mid-conversation without missing a beat. They understand tone, nuance, and audience better than most. And it's not just about being talkative, Geminis are brilliant listeners, too. They're genuinely curious about what others have to say, and that curiosity makes them present, engaged, and alive in every conversation. They have this innate gift of making people feel seen and heard. You leave a conversation with a Gemini feeling a little more energized, a little more hopeful, a little more understood. Their communication isn't just verbal, it's emotional. They know when to lighten the mood with humor, when to hold space for something deeper, when to ask the question no one else thought to ask. And the best part? It feels effortless. Being in conversation with a Gemini is like catching your breath in fresh air, it's natural, refreshing, and exactly what you didn't know you needed. 2. Naturally curious. There's an almost childlike wonder that lives inside every Gemini. It shows up in the questions they ask, the way their eyes light up when they discover something new, and how they're always ready to dive into an unexpected topic with genuine interest. They aren't curious just for the sake of it, they truly want to understand the world, people, ideas, and themselves. This curiosity isn't about collecting trivia, it's about connection. It's about seeking the why behind the what. When something captures a Gemini's attention, they don't skim the surface. They want to peel back the layers, explore the depths, and uncover what others might have missed. They'll fall into rabbit holes about philosophy, space, psychology, or a random cultural trend, whatever tugs at their fascination in that moment. And what's so beautiful about their curiosity is how contagious it is. Being around a Gemini often makes you start asking more questions yourself. You begin to notice the beauty in things you once overlooked. They inspire you to learn, not because they're trying to teach you, but because their enthusiasm is so real, so unfiltered, that you can't help but join in. Gemini's curiosity is a gift. It keeps life moving, ideas flowing, and relationships deepening. It reminds us that there's always something more to explore, always something new to feel, always another layer waiting to be revealed. With a Gemini, curiosity isn't just a trait, it's a lifestyle, and it's one that makes the world a whole lot more interesting. 3. Incredibly adaptable. Life rarely follows a straight line, and for Gemini, that's never a problem. In fact, it's where they thrive. They're incredibly adaptable, not just on the surface, but in the way they think, feel, and respond to the shifting tides of life. They don't resist change, they move with it. They're the first to pivot when a plan falls through, the ones who can make a new environment feel familiar within minutes. It's not that they're unrooted, it's that their roots grow in motion. This flexibility doesn't mean they lack direction, it means they know how to evolve. Gemini can be one thing one day and something new the next, not out of indecision, but out of growth. They are constantly absorbing, processing, and reshaping the way they see the world. And when life throws them curveballs, they don't crumble. They adapt, adjust, and keep going. Their resilience comes from their ability to let go of what no longer serves them and lean into what's next, even when it's unfamiliar. People admire this in Gemini because it's a kind of bravery that often goes unnoticed. The ability to remain fluid in a world that craves certainty is a rare strength. Geminis remind us that survival isn't always about standing firm, it's about knowing when to shift, when to bend, and when to begin again without fear. They make change feel a little less scary, and in doing so, they help others move through life with a little more grace. 4. Emotionally intelligent. Beneath the quick wit and vibrant energy, Gemini holds an emotional intelligence that's often underestimated. They don't just read the room, they feel it. They sense when energy shifts, when someone needs a moment, or when words don't quite match someone's eyes. It's not always something they explain or analyze, it's something they intuitively know. Their emotional awareness doesn't come from overthinking, it comes from presence. They're tuned in, attentive, and curious about how others feel. They may not always show their own emotions right away, but that doesn't mean they're disconnected. In fact, many Geminis are deeply emotional, they just process those feelings through conversation, reflection, or quiet observation before they express them. They're the ones who check in with a soft, "How are you really doing?" when everyone else is rushing past. They know how to hold space without smothering, how to comfort without overwhelming, and how to encourage without pressure. Their understanding of emotion isn't always loud or dramatic, it's subtle, wise, and healing. What's most admirable is that this emotional intelligence exists alongside their playful nature, showing us that joy and depth don't cancel each other out. With a Gemini, you get both. They'll make you laugh when you need it, but they'll also stay with you in silence when words aren't enough. That balance is what makes their emotional presence feel so safe, so refreshing, and so rare. 5. Fearlessly themselves. Gemini doesn't wait for permission to be who they are. They just are. In a world full of boxes and labels, they refuse to be limited. They embrace their contradictions, celebrate their moods, and wear their ever-evolving personality like a badge of honor. They know that identity isn't fixed, it's fluid. And instead of hiding that truth, they own it. Fearlessly. They'll try new styles, shift opinions, explore unfamiliar paths, and reinvent themselves without apology. This isn't about attention, it's about freedom. Gemini isn't trying to shock the world. They're trying to honor the parts of themselves that want to grow, change, and evolve. And in doing that, they give others permission to do the same. They remind us that it's okay to change your mind, to outgrow old versions of yourself, to feel different from one day to the next. Their authenticity isn't loud, it's natural. It's in how they speak their truth, how they show up without pretense, how they let you see all sides of who they are without shame. People admire Gemini for their courage to be real, even when it's messy, even when it's complex. Because deep down, everyone wants that freedom, to be all of who they are without fear of rejection. And Gemini, in their fearless authenticity, shows us how powerful it is to simply be true to yourself. 6. Infectiously energetic. There's a kind of buzz in the air when a Gemini walks into a room. Their energy doesn't shout, it sparkles. It moves, it dances, it lifts the mood without trying. It's in the way they talk with their hands, laugh with their whole face, and jump from one topic to the next like life is just too exciting to stay in one place. Their enthusiasm is contagious, not forced or performative, but genuine, warm, and incredibly refreshing. Being around a Gemini feels like standing in sunlight after a long winter. You remember what it's like to feel awake, inspired, alive. They bring this energy into everything they do, conversations, creative projects, spontaneous plans. They infuse even the most mundane moment with a sense of fun and possibility. What makes their energy so magnetic is that it's rooted in presence. When they're with you, fully. They're not checking out, they're not going through the motions, they're engaged. And it makes you want to match their frequency. It's easy to admire someone who can lift your spirits without even realizing they're doing it. With Gemini, joy is never far away. They teach us that energy is not just about movement, it's about intention, connection, and showing up with a heart that's open to whatever the moment holds. 7. Deep thinkers beneath the sparkle. It's easy to get caught up in Gemini's quick wit and lively energy, but spend enough time with them and you'll realize there's so much more going on beneath the surface. Their minds are not just fast, they're deep. They don't just skim topics for conversation, they contemplate, they analyze, they connect ideas in ways that reveal a rare kind of intellectual depth. Gemini may crack a joke one minute and dive into existential questions the next, and somehow, both feel equally authentic. They have the capacity to hold lightness and complexity at the same time, which is what makes conversations with them so dynamic and fulfilling. They're thinkers in the truest sense, not limited to facts or logic, but expansive in curiosity, philosophy, and emotion. They wonder why people behave the way they do, why love hurts and heals, why society is the way it is, and what it means to really know yourself. Their inner world is rich, and even though they may not always wear it on their sleeve, it's there, quietly shaping how they move through the world. They don't think in black and white, they see the gradients, the nuance, the layers in everything. And perhaps that's part of their charm. You think you figured them out, and then they say something that opens up a whole new side of them you didn't see coming. People admire Gemini for their ability to shine on the outside while carrying depth on the inside. That balance makes them not just interesting, but profoundly real. 8. Effortlessly charming. Gemini doesn't have to try to be liked, it just happens. There's something about the way they enter a space, light it up with a glance or a comment, and leave people smiling without quite knowing why. Their charm isn't rehearsed or artificial, it's in their energy, their timing, the way they make others feel important without being over the top. They have a way of reading the room, of sensing who needs attention, who needs laughter, who needs a little spark to get them out of their shell. And they deliver it with ease. It's not about being the loudest or most commanding voice, it's about being genuine, present, and in tune. Their words land softly, their humor disarms tension, and their attention makes people feel seen. It's no surprise that they're often surrounded by people, not because they seek the spotlight, but because they make everyone feel better just by being around. They carry a lightness that doesn't diminish depth, a magnetism that doesn't require ego. People admire this about Gemini because it feels natural, it doesn't ask for anything in return. Their charm doesn't compete, it includes. It makes space for others to feel part of something good. Whether they're meeting someone new or reconnecting with an old friend, Gemini brings warmth and sparkle that feels easy, honest, and effortlessly captivating. 9. Masters of reinvention. Gemini is never just one thing, and they don't want to be. They are masters of reinvention, not out of confusion, but out of evolution. They understand that growth means change, and they embrace that reality with a kind of grace that inspires others to do the same. Where some people resist letting go of old versions of themselves, Gemini lets those versions breathe, live their time, and then move on. They aren't afraid to start fresh, to pivot careers, to move to a new place, or to shift the way they see themselves. Reinvention for them isn't a breakdown, it's a breakthrough. They shed old skins with curiosity, not fear, trusting that what's next might hold something even more aligned, more free, more fully them. This courage to evolve makes Gemini deeply admired. They show people that identity isn't a fixed label, it's a living, breathing story that you get to rewrite whenever your soul asks for it. Reinvention doesn't mean they've lost who they were, it means they've made space to become more. Whether it's their style, their passions, or their beliefs, Gemini gives themselves permission to outgrow and reimagine. And in doing so, they teach the rest of us that we're allowed to do the same. That change isn't something to be ashamed of, it's something to be celebrated. 10. Thoughtful in surprising ways. People often expect Gemini to be all lightness, all conversation, all fun. And while they can certainly bring that brightness into any room, what often catches others off guard is just how deeply thoughtful they can be. They notice the things you didn't say. They remember that random story you told 3 weeks ago and bring it up at just the right time. They send a message when you didn't ask for one but really needed it. Their thoughtfulness doesn't always come in big, dramatic gestures, it shows up in the small, intentional ones that mean the most. It's in the way they check in after a difficult day, the way they sense when you're overwhelmed, the way they laugh at your old jokes just to remind you that your stories matter. Gemini pays attention in ways that are subtle, but meaningful. Their minds may be quick, but their hearts don't rush past what's important. They remember your favorite coffee order, the name of your childhood pet, the look on your face when something hurt even if you didn't say a word. And the best part? They don't make a big deal out of it. Their care is woven into their presence, quiet and sincere. This kind of thoughtfulness surprises people not because it's out of character, but because it reminds them how complex and compassionate Gemini really is. 11. Naturally youthful spirit. There's something about Gemini that always feels fresh, alive, and quietly rebellious in the best way. Their energy carries a youthful spark, not childish, but curious, open, and playful. It's the kind of spirit that makes people feel like anything is still possible, like adventure is always just one yes away. They don't lose that light over time, in fact, they protect it. Even when life gets heavy, Gemini holds on to their sense of wonder. They ask questions like a child seeing the world for the first time, and they laugh with the kind of freedom that comes from living in the moment. They're not trying to act younger than they are, they just refuse to let the world make them hard or cynical. They still believe in the magic of a good conversation, a spontaneous road trip, a new idea. That youthful spirit doesn't mean they don't carry wisdom, it means they carry it lightly. They know how to hold both perspective and possibility. Being around a Gemini often feels like pressing refresh. They remind people not to take everything so seriously, not to lose the spark, not to forget that we're allowed to still be amazed. It's a rare energy, one that isn't about age, but about attitude. And it's one of the many reasons people admire Gemini so deeply. They don't just keep growing older, they keep growing brighter. 12. Creatively gifted. Creativity flows through Gemini like breath. It's not limited to one outlet or one medium, it spills into everything they touch. Whether it's the way they dress, the way they write, the stories they tell, or how they solve problems, there's a spark of originality in everything they do. Their minds are alive with possibility, and they're constantly finding new angles, new approaches, new ways to turn the ordinary into something extraordinary. What makes their creativity so captivating is that it's rarely self-indulgent, it's expressive. It's generous. They want to share ideas, start conversations, inspire connection. They don't hoard their talent, they offer it. And they're not afraid to experiment, to fail, to try again. That freedom gives their creativity a kind of boldness that feels both exciting and inviting. They might write poetry one day, design something unexpected the next, or bring a new perspective into a team project that no one else saw coming. Their creativity isn't about fitting a mold, it's about reshaping it. And even when they're not trying, even when they're just living life, they bring imagination into the way they move, the way they think, the way they relate. People admire Gemini because they remind us that creativity isn't reserved for artists, it's a way of being. And when you're around them, you start to feel a little more creative yourself. 13. Emotionally supportive friends. Despite their bubbly reputation and fast-paced minds, Geminis are some of the most emotionally supportive friends you could ever ask for. They don't always show their care in the way you'd expect, but it's there, deeply rooted in how they pay attention, how they ask questions, and how they check in when others might forget. They have a remarkable ability to sense when something's off, and they don't just brush it aside, they lean in. They're there when it counts, offering perspective, humor, or simply presence. They're the friend who distracts you when you need to laugh, listens when you need to vent, and sends a song that says what you can't put into words. They're not afraid of your mess. They won't run from your breakdown. In fact, they often know exactly what to say to help you reframe what you're feeling, not with toxic positivity, but with genuine belief in your ability to move through it. Their emotional support feels like a mix of sunlight and structure, comforting, encouraging, and gently honest. And even when they're juggling a million things, they'll still find a way to remind you that you matter, that you're not alone, and that they've got your back. People admire this in Gemini because it's unexpected and deeply sincere. Their care doesn't always look traditional, but it's real. And it leaves a lasting impact. 14. They light up the room. There's a kind of magic that follows Gemini into any space they enter. It's not loud or demanding, it's radiant, alive, and full of subtle brilliance. They don't have to try to shine. They just do. It's in the way they move, the way they speak, the way their energy seems to meet you exactly where you are and lift you just a little higher. They can walk into a room and instantly shift the mood, not because they seek attention, but because their presence carries lightness, curiosity, and openness that makes people feel like something good is about to happen. They bring color to conversations, warmth to silence, and movement to moments that felt stagnant before they arrived. Gemini has this rare ability to make you feel like you're exactly where you need to be, even if you're still figuring things out. They light up a room not with perfection, but with presence, with the way they listen deeply and speak freely, with the way they offer energy without draining yours, with the way they make you want to stay a little longer. It's not just charisma, though they have that in abundance. It's something softer. Something truer. It's the feeling of being seen and celebrated, not for what you do, but for who you are. Gemini doesn't light up a room to be the center of it. They do it to create space for others to feel alive too. They spark ideas, laughter, connection, and in doing so, they remind us that light isn't something you keep to yourself. It's something you share. As we take a step back and look at all the ways Gemini shines, it becomes clear why they're one of the most admired signs in the zodiac. They're brilliant communicators, not just because they talk, but because they connect, deeply, honestly, effortlessly. Their curiosity breathes life into everything they touch. They adapt with grace, showing us how to embrace change instead of fear it. They're emotionally intelligent, tuned into the world in a way that allows them to hold space for laughter and depth, sometimes in the same moment. They are fearlessly themselves, unafraid to evolve, and even more unafraid to let others evolve too. They carry energy that's contagious, charm that's effortless, and thoughtfulness that sneaks up on you in the best possible way. They reinvent themselves with courage, live with a youthful heart, and channel their creativity into everything they do. And when it comes to friendship, they are far more emotionally supportive than they're often given credit for. Then there's that light, the one they bring into every room, into every relationship, into every life they touch. It's not always flashy, and it's never forced. But it's real. And that's why people remember them. That's why people admire them. Because Gemini shows us how to live with openness, how to love with presence, and how to stay curious even when the world tries to harden us. They remind us that we are allowed to change, to grow, to feel everything fully, and still move forward with hope. Gemini doesn't just speak truth, they live it, breathe it, share it. And in doing so, they help the rest of us believe that maybe we can too. To every Gemini listening, this is your moment to exhale and remember just how much you bring to the world. Your voice, your ideas, your laughter, your presence, it all matters. You don't need to fit into one version of yourself. You are allowed to be layered, dynamic, shifting, and real. That's not confusion. That's growth. That's freedom. And it's a gift to the people lucky enough to know you. You light up rooms, you inspire thought, you make others feel less alone simply by being who you are. So keep talking, keep asking, keep evolving. And to those who love a Gemini, hold on to them, learn from them, let them move as they need to. Because loving a Gemini is a little like watching stars move across the night sky, you don't always know where they're headed, but the view is always unforgettable.